Now, to do any work on the Seed Terminator or replace any of the mill components, we're going to need to remove the inlet chute. To do this, we must first disconnect the blockage sensor cables. There's a sticker here to remind you on the side to disconnect them, which can be found on the front of the inlet chute. What we're going to do is take a note of which way the blockage sensor cable is pointing out, because it locates and it will need to go back on this orientation. And we're going to then unscrew the blockage sensor cable, remove it, and tuck it in out of the way where it can't get caught or jammed as you remove the chute. Once we've removed the inlet chutes, to replace the mill, it's simply just a 15mm socket with an extension, and we remove 5 bolts here from the outer ring of the screens. So what we're going to do is we're going to place the socket down, and we're going to break the bolt and simply undo it. Remove all 5 of them. Make sure you don't leave any of these in the mill. Sometimes the screens can be a little bit seized on after a bit of operation, so I just get a pry bar or something in and just give it a little pop out before you need to remove it. The screen can be heavy, depend on how worn it is. You might need to have someone in to come and give you a hand, but it simply just lifts up out of the way. Once we've removed the screen, we now have full access to remove the flails. What I've got here is a 16mm spanner that we've shortened down to 90mm, and we've also ground the head flat so that it can fit in and get access to the locking nut that's on the flail bolt. We've also got an 8mm hex drive bit to remove the flail bolt, as it's a hex head Allen key bolt. What we're going to do is we're going to place the hex bit in the bolt and get our locking spanner. We then put it on the nut and loosen the nut until it's loose and free. I've also jammed a pry bar in to prevent the mill from spinning. I'm now going to break the Allen key bolt whilst holding the lock nut in place and unwind the bolt. Now, it's important to take the locking nut out and put it on the bolt so it doesn't get lost. And now we've got our flail. Once we've removed all the flails, we now have access to the rotor to be removed. There are 6 wheel nuts here that are all 3/4 in size, and what we're going to do is apply a small amount of heat to the wheel nut to ensure that we break the Loctite enough to undo the bolt. So we're going to hold this on for about 4 to 5 seconds. Now, once the nut is warm enough, not so hot that you would burn yourself, but just warm, we can then use our breaker bar with an extension and our 3/4 socket to break the wheel nut. Once we've removed all 6 wheel nuts, we're then able to use a flail bolt, 2 flail bolts, and the 2 jacking holes either side of the rotor in the base plate. So what we can do is we just place the flail bolt in the jacking holes, and we can screw the bolts in just ever slightly, a few millimeters. Once you've removed all the nuts holding the rotor in place and you've used the jacking bolts to lift the rotor, it can be lifted off. You may need a pry bar, and the rotor is quite heavy, so you will need 2 people to lift it out